But as I look at my journey and people around me, I begin to realize, like, to me, school has turned into like a daycare where adults take their children while they handle their adult duties. Because a lot of the information that they're giving in there don't really benefit them long term. And then too, like, research says that most children are only learning maybe 2 hours and 15 minutes to 2 hours and 50 minutes a day. The remainder of the day is free time, lunchtime, heads up, 7-Up, things of that nature. So once I started paying attention to that, and then I started paying attention to the bias on how, like, they section off our culture typically in certain schools and other, like, even down to the way they reprimand. It's a lot of it's handled different when it comes to our culture.
That's right.
And I just knew, like, I didn't want the nurturing of my child's mind to be in the hands of the people who had a granddad that didn't appreciate my children being alive, period.
Yeah,
that's why, like, even punishing, I think I have that conversation with parents all the time. Like, think about putting your hands on your child because they don't perform well in a system that wasn't created for them in the first place.
Right.
So I do feel like basics wise, they do have some great things in school. Like, for me, I'm not gonna lie, only thing I appreciated in school was English and reading. And I happen to be a #1 selling author, so I'm not gonna knock them. Yeah, I'm not gonna knock them and say they ain't give me nothing because they did.
Right.
Some tools they did give me, but for the most part,
and mathematics.
Yeah, mathematics, because you know, in entrepreneurship,
that don't change.
Right,
that don't change. You can't change math.
So I mean, they do have some pluses about it. I'm not gonna say they all bad.
They can't cap on that math though.
Yeah,
they
for sure.
Cap on that math. You know, I made a algebra teacher quit.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, man. In Doug High, I was in 10th grade. I was class clown, man, all 12. Well, I ain't go 12 whole years, but every year I went to school, you know what I'm saying? I dropped out in the 10th grade, but I was class clown. And this is the highlight of my class clowning career. So he was an algebra teacher, and we was going back and forth about me showing my work in algebra. And I do math in my head. So I kept giving him the right answer, so he was thinking that I was cheating or whatever. But I really had the right answer. So finally, and I just kept saying throughout that course of that section that you can't make us show our work. You can't make us, as long as we know it. We don't have to show you how we arrived. Right. And so he called me up to the board and asked me, all right, well, you come teach the class. I was like, man, thought you'd never ask. All right. So I get up there and like, all right, well, cool. Well, they tell you to do that, but you don't really need to do that, because if you know this, then you know that, you know, all you got to do is blah, 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 and you ain't got to write that down, just remember it, and then you use that, you know what I'm saying, so on and so forth. And I wrote out the right answer, and the whole classroom erupted. Yeah. And he said, I ain't got to take this shit. Fuck these kids. Grabbed this stuff and walked out and never came back. Yeah. He quit that day from being a teacher. All right. No bullshit, no Jeff, no cap. When he left, I thought he was going to get the principal on me. Yeah. And he never came back. The bell rung, and the next day it was a substitute, and it was a substitute from the rest of the day.
Bro was out of there.
He never came back, bro. And now that I look back, I think good. Because your ass didn't have no business in there nowhere in the first place. Right. You know, because obviously either you weren't equipped or weren't passionate about educating in any way. Because if you one thing you should have known is that I knew my stuff. Right. And you supposed to be able to know somebody who faking from somebody who really know what they doing. Yeah. And you should have saw me as an advanced student and dealt with me differently, because exceptions are made for exceptional circumstances. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the things that public school don't do, or school curriculum don't do well anyway. They don't deal with our children as individuals. Absolutely. They expect every child to learn on the same pace, to learn from the same methods and to perform the same way. And because that was one of the things that happened with my son. The teacher would be like, oh, he do his work, but he go find trouble to get into when he done. I'm like, well, maybe y'all ain't challenging him enough. Yeah. He'll do stuff like, he'll knock the work out, get an A, but crawl under the desk or break pencils or cause a disruption. I was like, well, is he a terrible child, or is y'all work just not challenging? But they ain't get it, so we end up parting ways. So now, when you take on the responsibility of homeschooling, are you hiring someone to homeschool, or you're doing it? No, I started doing it myself. So one of the first ways that I figured out, I initially signed him up for a homeschool program that was online. Okay. And it was crazy, right? Because I go through their curriculum too. It's basically the same stuff they teaching them in the building. I remember getting with the
because they have like a virtual teacher you can always hit up if you need help.
Okay.
And I remember we came to a spot and he had a history lesson and they wanted me to teach him about Columbus.
Nah.
I remember hitting, I was like, hey, I'm not comfortable teaching him that. She was like, look, Mr. Grace, you just insert what you feel like is history in your opinion and go from there. And I did that, and I'm like, wait, I remember it dawned, I'm like, damn, this teaching thing ain't really that hard. I ain't got to use y'all stuff at all. So from that point on, me and her communicated a little while longer, and I just started inserting what I felt like he needed to know. And then from that point on, I was like, okay, I guess I could kind of teach because he getting it.
Right.
He digested it, and I went from there.
So now you've written a few books about your curriculum. You've written a few books about your curriculum called Unlearn and Relearn.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come up with it, and what grade level does it go up to?
I got you. So I started out with books. I started out with my autobiography, and then I got the Gods Amongst Men series. That's a self-help type of collection. It's like 4 or 5 of those. The curriculum started because I made a video in 2016 that ended up going viral, where I was teaching them about entrepreneurship, ownership, things of that nature. And it was a demand from the people. And I ain't gonna lie, I had maybe like 2,000 followers at a point. I just woke up one day. It was June 8th on her birthday. I woke up one day, and my following at like 62,000. My phone jumping, and somebody like, you went viral. I'm like, what's that? They was like, that's like, that mean you big on the internet and your video got a bunch of views. I'm like, oh, okay. I ain't think nothing of it. But literally by the weekend, the demand came, and people was like, how can we teach our children that?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, so I sat down.
That's what I'm trying. My next question was, can you teach this to Major?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So
Major needs to know this. Derrick, will you please teach Major? Bless you, darling. Would you please teach Major some of the stuff you know? Huh?
Why you whispering, man?
Would you mind? Major, would you mind learning?
No, man. Hey, he looking like I ain't got time for that.
I tell you what. Let's do this. Y'all go and let Derrick run some of the stuff by you, and then when you come back, you can show me what you learned.
Better idea.
Hey, come here, speak up into the mic. What'd you say?
Better idea. How about instead we do this some other time?
Okay, as long as you commit and give me your word that we'll come back to it.
All right.
Done. So whenever I say, whatever time I say it's time to do it, that's when we gonna do it, or we gonna agree on the time.
Might have to agree on the time.
All right, we agree on the time, but if me and you on different times, I break the tie.
Okay.
All right, cool. That works for me.
That's a bet.
All right.